So today I would like you to open your books to this page. And this is what I'm going to go through today. This is step by step of what to do. I also have this diagram, which won't live here, but these are the shapes that I'm going to be making today. And I also actually outlined them and they're on the board, but those will all be on canvas. You are going to get a wheel number and a wheel group color. And so like maybe on Monday it'll be orange group, and Tuesday it'll be green, and Wednesday it'll be purple, and then Thursday it'll go back to orange. We usually don't throw in Friday, but then the next Monday it'll be green and then violet and then orange and then green and then violet, and it'll just go in a pattern like that. So every 3 days-ish you'll be doing that, okay? And then you're gonna have a number, and all of the wheels are numbered. This is number 2, this is number 3, 4, 5. This is not number 6. 6 is around the corner. I have 2 wheels that are open, and those are as assigned. So for example, if it was a Monday and it was your group to go and you were absent and you come back on a Tuesday, you might say, hey, I missed my wheel day. Can I go on one of the extra wheels? If you're one of the first 2, I'm going to say yes. And you can make up that time, okay? This next page. This is what you're going to fill out for your points as you work. We are not working towards a finished product. You get your grade through effort and going through the experience. Basically sitting down, trying all period, and cleaning up. Okay? And so it's an experience to help you learn a little bit about it. You do not have to have a finished product. If you finish with something and you want to keep it, by all means you can cut it off the wheel and fire it and do all that, but you're not getting graded on that, okay? Each row is a different day, so you can put the date, where you got, it's like a little chart. You're charting your progress here, then what you learned. You might say, didn't use enough water, or used too much clay, or slow down the wheel, or some little phrase. And then you're going to have me sign it. You're going to have me sign it on that day. If you forget to have it signed, I am not going to remember that you were on the wheel yesterday. I don't keep that information in my brain, okay? If you have a sub, have the sub sign it. And then you can see at the top it says my group is blank, so you'll always know what your group is. I make an Excel sheet, and I just put 1 through 11, 1 through 11. It'll be on the board. It'll be very obvious, okay? Okay, so we're going to go through this today, and I'm going to use this wheel. Okay, so set up your supplies. Get 1 pound of clay. How do I know it's 1 pound? There's a scale. So this will usually be over there, but I'm going to turn the scale on. I'm going to click on tare, which like zeroes it out, so if there's like extra clay and stuff, it won't weigh it. And then I'm going to put my clay on. How many ounces are in a pound? 16. So if it doesn't have a 1 before it and it says like 15.8, is it a pound yet? No, you want at least a pound. Mine is 1 pound, 4.8 ounces. That's great. You don't want to go over like 1.5. Okay, so between like a little over a pound is fine. Doesn't have to be exact. Okay, and turn off the scale. Okay, you need an apron, and I have them over there, unless you want to just fully be covered in clay and water. You need to fill your bucket with water. I prefer warm water because it's winter time. So I turn the warm on. You want the water to be close to the top so that you don't have to reach down in the bucket too far to get your sponge. Okay, and you want to always put it on your drip pan. Okay, so it's just right there when you need it. If you're left hand, you put it over here. Okay, for the demo, I'm just going to put it right here so that you all can see. Okay, and then you're going to put your sponge in the water, ready to go. Okay, make sure you have all your tools. So you have a mat at each station that has little drawings of outlines of what all the tools are and their names. So if you don't have a tool, tell me at the beginning so I can get it for you. Sometimes they fall on the ground and that kind of thing. You should have a rag. Oftentimes I take the rag and I put it on my knee. Since I'm right-handed, I just, often just without even thinking, my hand goes here, and then that way it soaks up the water and the clay and my pants aren't all wet. Okay? All right. Make sure your wheel is spinning in the correct direction. And it says right and left hand are different, but any lefties in here? If you're left-handed, I would still go counterclockwise. So if you're a lefty, don't go clockwise. So I turned it on, and I can use my finger to go, oh yeah, that's counterclockwise, right? The opposite of a clock. Okay, so that's great. Okay, I'm gonna get my clay into a ball. Make sure this is pretty much dry. I'm gonna put it down in the center. If I don't get it in the center, I can pick it back up, put it back into a ball shape again. If it's still not in the center, I can use kind of the rings here to kind of push it where I want it to go. A step that I'm not sure the previous videos covered, maybe they did, is I want to seal the clay on the edge. And the reason I'm doing this is that if water gets under the clay, water makes clay slippery and it'll just kind of slip off. And that's very common with beginners or with intermediate people. And so this just is a preventative step. And then once I do that, I can kind of just seal it even further. And that just seals it down so water doesn't get underneath. Okay. So it says, get clay wet and at a fast speed, press down on the clay to make a cone volcano shape. This is just getting your clay stuck to the wheel. Okay? So it's kind of like driving a car, right? You can use your foot or you can use your hand, but different from a car is that you can make it go the speed you want it and you can walk away. That would be bad in a car.
I mean,
okay?
You can do that in a car, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah. So that's nice because then I can have my feet on the ground, right? And I don't have to worry about it. I look at the speed in 3 phases. It's like driving a car. This is the fastest the wheel will go. It's like driving on the freeway, 60 miles an hour plus. Okay? Then a little bit slower is like maybe 35 miles an hour, kind of on the major roads around town. And then it's like you're driving home from the mall, right? First you go 60, then you go 35. Then in your neighborhood, you should, especially if they're little kids, creep through your neighborhood and creep up your driveway and then stop the car. Okay? So we're going to start at the fastest speed, and as we go through each step, we're going to get slower, and we're going to get slower, and we're going to get slower. We're not going to go fast again. Okay? The speed helps you when it helps you, but then when it's too much speed, it can really ruin your life or your bowl, right? Okay, so I am going to add water, err on the side of too much water. Have I made my point?
No.
Okay.
One more.
One more?
Just a little.
No, okay. I want to get my hands wet too, and I'm just going to get it stuck down. So I'm just putting pressure downward pressure. My hands are going to wiggle, and that's okay. I'm not centering. As soon as I feel my hands getting dry and it pulling on my hands, or my hands going around like this, I need to get more water. It should slide right through my fingers. Okay, which makes it challenging as well. Okay, it's stuck down. Then I'm going to do the centering. Okay, and you see there's that chart there, and on the left side it says centering. Okay, we already did the first two bullets. Centering, pressure on both sides, and we're going to do a cone up, cone down centering. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze from the sides like I was squeezing the bottom of a tube of toothpaste. And what happens if you squeeze the bottom of a tube of toothpaste? The toothpaste goes up and out, right? So I am not picking up. I am squeezing in to cone up. Then, again, more water. I'm coning down. And John the Potter had you go like this, and your right hand going down like this. I am more this side person with more of a karate chop, or kind of a this part of my hand, but really whatever way works. As I'm pushing it down, it's pushing it on center. Is it centered? No, but it's more centered. Okay, I'm going to do it again. You're going to do this over and over and over again. Squeeze the sides. If you feel it pulling, add more water. As you release, you always want to release slowly. Okay, slowly back away, because you can get it off center very quickly. Is it on center? Well, visually looking, it looks pretty good, but I want to make it better than pretty good. So I'm going to take wet hands, and I'm going to feel, and this has to be wet, I want it to not feel kind of a wobble like that. Okay, and that's pretty good. I'm going to go up to the top. A little more wobble at the top. This would be excellent for a beginner. And I'm going to move on in my demo. Did you know that blind people can center?
I mean, they have to.
Right? We are feeling. So oftentimes when I'm trying to determine if it's center, I'll either look away or I'll close my eyes. Usually take a deep breath. For real. Okay? That's why I like it. This is why I like this. Is because it helps me to breathe. Okay? All right. Always more water. Okay? And now we're going to slow it down. Okay? So now we're at that 35 mile per hour just around town. Right? Okay? And that was step over here, center. That's that shape. Okay? And it's okay if the top part goes up a little bit or the top part goes down a little bit, because then you're going to know where to put your thumb. I often have it just go up a little bit. Then we're going to do the open and pull, and Simon Leach says go in with a V, right? That's what he said. And so I'm going to get really hunkered down here. So it's like I'm ready to catch a hike in football. Okay, so my rear end's kind of sticking out a little bit. My elbows, the whole time I'm like this. My elbows are on my knees. Okay, they're braced inward. Okay, I'm really close here. I'm not like this. If I'm like this, I don't have any support to my arms. And my arms are not going to be controlling the clay. The clay is going to be controlling my arms. Remember John the Potter said that? So instead I want to come right up to it and get really far down and brace my elbows into my knees, into my legs, and be the boss of the clay. Right? Okay. So, more water. Okay? I'm going to take my thumb and I'm going to slowly rest it until it kind of finds the center. Again, closing your eyes can be helpful. and I always want it to be sliding. Okay, now, if you'll notice, from here on out, my hands work together. They never work solo. So even though I'm not really doing much with this hand, it's right here. It's supporting, okay? So I'm gonna push down, and as I push, I'm gonna slowly rotate till my thumb's like the side of a V. I can even put my finger on here if it helps. And definitely more water. Do I want to go all the way down to the bottom? No, because then I wouldn't have a bottom of my mug or my bowl or making cylinders. How do I know how far I need to go? Well, you want to stop before you go too far and test it. Okay, so I think that's probably not far enough, but I'm going to test it. So I'm going to get all the water out. Okay, I'm going to take my needle. I'm going to put it down in the middle. I'm going to turn it off because it keeps turning. I'm going to put my fingernail right where the needle meets the clay. I'm going to pull it up, and that's how deep or thick my bottom is. That's pretty thick, although for a beginner, I would say maybe just stop there because you can get really thin really quickly. Okay, I'm going to do some compressing, and you'll see me do it so that it compresses the clay more about like that. Okay, but that's pretty good, like 1/4 inch. Okay. Now I've done my going in like a V at medium speed. Gotta turn it on. Okay, and then I'm going to sweep my thumb towards my fingers. I am not going to move my fingers towards my thumb. Sweep my thumb to the outside, from the inside to the outside, slowly. And this makes the floor. Okay, so I've made the floor, and I want to go back in and get rid of all of the water. We don't want a lot of water resting on the bottom. Over time, it'll degrade the bottom. And I'm also compressing a little bit. Remember I said that I wanted to compress a little bit more? And that's just putting pressure on the clay so it condenses. I'm just going from the center out. It also gets up all that extra muck. I believe Simon called it slurry, slip, okay? And so that is the opening, okay? Let's go to pulling, okay? And so on this here, we've done the first two. Yep, we're gonna go to the claw pull or volcano. So, you know, an animal that has a claw like a crab, right? Okay, they have their pincers, right? Okay, yeah, we're gonna have that claw is very important to the claw pull, okay? And then the other hand is gonna be supporting it, okay? And so I'm gonna be pinching here and pulling up with my pincer like I was a crab. But if I do that, and I don't have another force pushing in, the clay is just gonna open up really wide. And it's gonna get really thin, and it's gonna fold all over itself. So, you know when you were a kid, you'd fill up a bucket of water and you'd go round and round and round and the water would not come out? Remember that? That, like centrifugal force, that's the same thing going on here with the clay going outward. So we have to counteract that by pushing in as much as possible, or a little bit more than pushing out. And so what I've learned to do is to take my two hands on this side, kind of like a pincer, but I curl so I get my knuckles, and I'm using my knuckles to push into the clay with the sponge to counteract that force. And I'll tell you, this one little trick has helped me a lot, okay? So, we're at the slowest speed, right? We're at, like in your driveway, kids running around, going super slow, not hitting anybody, okay? Getting everything wet, okay? I'm going to pinch this and use the knuckles to push in, and down here I'm going at the base and using my pincher like a crab and slowly pulling up. So first I push in. Can you see the difference when I'm just pushing in? Yeah. I'm trying to make a volcano shape. I do not want to go to the top edge. And I'm not pinching all the way through. So I'm stopping before I go to the top, slowly letting go, and then I can compress this. Okay? So the goal here is to bring up some clay, and the walls should either be straight or tilting inwards. They should not be tilting outwards. Mine are pretty good. If I need to, I can always come in behind it with kind of a, what do you call this pole? A pulling in? Collaring in, thank you. So that way it comes in more, okay? So yeah, you can follow up the claw pole with a collaring in. And then I want to get all that water and any muck and stuff up, out from there, at least just for a second or two, because it'll just get real mucky down there. And I'm also kind of putting some pressure. Okay, put some pressure here. Okay, so after every pull, I kind of clean it up, look at it, assess it. Okay, we do one claw pull. Then we're gonna do the S pulls. The S pulls are very interesting. So there is clay wall, and on the outside, I'm putting pressure here, and on the inside, I'm putting pressure just above it. And that makes the clay go in an S. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll show you what it looks like, and it's very slow. You got, again, deep breath. I'm gonna put pressure up under here, and you can see me moving the clay. It's changing shape. It's now in that S shape. The wall is in that S shape. I feel a little bubble. That might cause me some issues. I do not go to the top. I stop before the top. Again, get the water out. It's not a lot different height, but I've got a lot more thickness. Okay? And I can do another collar in. See, I'm just like gently going like that. Okay, I'm gonna do one more S pull. My water. My hands are together. They're always touching. So I'm going like this, and I'm scooping it up like this, and slowly pulling it up. Sometimes I use my knuckle. Sometimes I use my sponge and my knuckle. If I feel a weak spot or a thin spot, I'm letting up on the pressure. And I can really feel quite a bit. I did not wedge properly. Did I wedge at all? Yeah, that's why I'm having some issues. If you don't wedge, you're gonna feel some bubbles and such. And that's gonna be really hard for a beginner. Okay, I think that I've reached the height that this will go for about 1 pound of clay. There's a couple of things I want to do. For a cylinder, because that's what we're going for straight sides. I don't have straight sides right now, and so I want to straighten them out. And so I can use my rib and the straight side of my rib as the outside, and the inside I can go and pull up like that. So I'm going to be going like this, and that's going to help straighten the sides. So I'm touching down at the bottom first and kind of rolling it in my hand. That made it a lot straighter, didn't it? Yeah. It's still a little outwards. That's just the shape that's happening today. Okay? What? Every class today, I've been getting this shape, even when I've tried not to. So
Maybe it's a sign.
it's a sign. It's a sign that I had way too much caffeine this morning, and I'm not kidding you. Okay, so I'm getting off all the slurry. I can push down on the rim a little bit. Okay, now I have this, sometimes I call it a turtleneck here or a skirt here that I really don't want. So if I'm going to keep this, if I like it, I'm going to cut this off. So I'm going to use my knife end of this, and I'm going to go, again, we're not speeding up. We're going to go down the side of the clay, slowly kind of making a little channel. I believe it was Simon that said, you know, an undercut is nice. I like an undercut as well. Kind of going until I get to the bottom of the wheel head or the top of the wheel head, then going straight across, kind of sliding it under there until I break, and then getting all that clay out of there. Oh, wow, look at that. How cool is that? I think that's really cool. Then I can take my sponge and soften the edge, soften the corner here. Okay, and then I can cut it off. Now, to cut it off, I need a board. I need my wire tool, and I need some water. So we're going to do a hydroplane method where we're trying to get water underneath so it slips and slides, or hydroplanes. So I'm going to get water all around here. I'm going to get my wire tool. I'm going to press down as I pull towards me. And I'm trying to get that water in. And I know that I got the water in because it moved. Okay? Then I can move it all around. And usually, sometimes I just have a board that's here. Or sometimes I just move it closer to the board. Okay, now, if I'm going to throw again, or if I want to clean up, pretty much anything, I need to get this clay off. So I'm going to use my wood rib for this. All this clay, I'm going to be putting in the pug mill. So I'm not going to be putting it down the drain. So I use that, then I use the sponge. A drier sponge, and look, I go all the way down and around, and I make the wheel head look beautiful. Okay, now, before I clean up, I want to show you, if you're happy with this and you want to save it, you want to put a bag on it and let it dry slowly. But if you want to get better at throwing and you want to learn and you are brave, I hope you're brave, you're going to do this.
Perfect.
It is a shame, is it not?
Put flour in.
And when I cut it in half, and I think I'm just gonna trash this part for a minute, I can learn from what I just did. So I can look at the thickness and see, is it the same thickness throughout? And remember how I said there was a little bubble, so I was like letting up the pressure? That was right here, I could feel it. But then I put more pressure here, it got thinner. What you don't want it is to be completely paper thin here and super thick here. I'm not paper thin here, so I'm happy about that. I still had some thickness down here that I would like to trim off, but I can trim that off once it starts to get leather hard. The other thing you want to think about is the width of the bottom. I had purposely left it a little wider, but the width of the bottom should be about the width of the side right here. Mine's a little thicker. You know, I'm doing it in front of all these people, so I'm less focused, right? But that is how you learn. So now I have feedback. I need to pinch more down here or do another pull. You don't want to do like 20 pulls. It's just going to be super waterlogged, but one more pull would have done me good, okay? If you want to keep it, by all means keep it. Now, I'm going to show you how to clean up and what to do with this clay. This clay does not go in the recycling. It actually goes in the pug mill, and you're going to recycle it right away. So my wheel head is pretty much clean. I can take my rag and clean it. And this, you're going to be responsible for this, so I really want you to pay attention. I'm going to put my water here, and any tool that I use, I'm going to put in the water. And be careful of the tip, put the pointy tip down.
Your sponge.
My sponge is in there?
No, it's right next to the seats.
Okay, good, because I need my sponge. Okay, so I'm going to take my sponge in my water, and I'm going to use this as my like little sink here. That way, I can just do it at my seat, okay? And it's not going to be clean enough to eat off of, but it's going to be clean. And then I can also, on my board here, I can take my rag or my sponge and wipe off all the gunk and put it in the right spot. Okay, so we don't want any chunks left on our tools. It'll be really hard for the next person. These are being used all day by lots of students. Take the point and put it away from you. This one we just kind of string out and put on the hook. Then I want to reach down and find any chunks. You'll probably have lots of chunks. I don't feel any chunks, okay? But then I want to go in here and find any chunks. Any chunks, I'm gonna pug. I don't want them going down the drain, okay? And my sponge is gonna go back. Then I'm gonna take one of these guys. These are big for a reason because they hold a lot of water. There's actually some water in here. And I'm going to mop out, kind of turn. Okay, you're gonna have to do this a couple of times and right into our bucket. It's kind of like your Cinderella, right? If you ever wanted to be a princess, now's the time. Okay, and mop out. You can wear a little tiara.
Shoes too.
Shoes, glass slippers, right? Okay? And as I'm doing this, I'm like scrubbing up all the sides. I can take this to go get pugged, scrubbing all of this so that the next person has a nice, clean wheel. Okay? Wipe this up Now there should be no chunks in here because I don't want chunks to go down the wheel. I'm going to put it in the sink. And you'll see that there's some slip down at the bottom. That's fine. A quick rinse. Rinse the sponge. But it's like a minute at the sink or less, right? Okay, this goes back. This goes back. Now, with your rag, you want to wipe everything down. And you want to look at the floor. And if there's dripping water on the floor, you want to take your rag, or maybe 2 or 3. You can use your feet. You don't have to use your hands to get up underneath there. Some of them are a little bit leaky. Your rag goes in the dirty laundry. You take a new rag and you fold it up for the next person. Now this is all set for the next person. You flip up your chair, you make sure it's turned off, and you pug your clay. Okay, so to pug your clay, on the wheel days, this will be turned on. I don't have the key, I haven't turned it on. You can see I've been doing this all day. You put it in here, and you pull this down all the way, and it'll pug out new clay. It's plenty wet, it doesn't need to be recycled. Okay? I just don't have it on today, because the key's over there. Okay? Then, what is the very last step? Fill out and sign your sheet. Thank you so much for your good listening. I really do appreciate it. Do you guys have any questions? That was a lot to take in. Some of you were falling asleep because your eyes were closing. I'm sorry that I'm boring. I tried to add a few jokes in there. We have a little bit of time, and I believe that the kiln is probably... Okay, we can stop this.